Instagram stories for Wednesday, January 15th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. Before I get into the Mosseri Monday Ask Me Anything, I want to do a brief news update on TikTok. The January 19th deadline is rapidly approaching for TikTok no longer being available in the United States. I haven't been reporting on some of the things that I've been seeing because, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure whether or not they're accurate. Many videos that I've seen on TikTok have claimed that once this January 19th date arrives, TikTok could still function. You might still be able to open the app, watch videos, post videos, but you would not be able to download the app from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. However, that may or may not actually be the case. According to the news outlet The Information, they're reporting that TikTok has made the decision to cut off the lights on January 19th rather than limp along as some people had expected. Technically, TikTok could potentially continue to function for users who already have the app installed. Using the app wouldn't be illegal, but service providers in the United States would not be allowed to work with the social media company. So Apple and Google would have to remove TikTok from their app stores. Cloud hosting providers like Oracle will have to stop operating its servers, and so on. According to this article from The Information news outlet, TikTok has chosen to go out as a martyr, letting users immediately see the consequences of the ban. A pop-up in the app will reportedly give users more info about why the app they know and love is no longer functioning. If the TikTok app is 100% no longer accessible, you may, ahead of time, want to download all the content that you've made on TikTok and the content that you've really enjoyed. There is an excellent guide on lifehacker.com to how to download your likes, favorites, and follows, basically preserving everything you love on TikTok while you still can. I will link to that guide in the show notes so you can check it out if you want to do that. If you've been on TikTok in the last few days, I personally can attest that it has been showing me better content than it has in a really long time. Every video I've seen is fantastic, but it could just be my own personal desperation. It reminds me of the feeling that I had when Napster was shut down back in 2001. And it was that last few hours of desperation to download as many MP3s as I possibly could before the service was no longer available. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the head of Instagram is going to answer a lot of questions, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's dive into the questions and answers from the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, from his recent Ask Me Anything. One of the news items that I talked about on the show last week was how the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, announced that the platforms would be switching from individual human fact checkers to community notes, which would be crowdsourced, much like the way Twitter, X, does today. The first question, how will community notes work?
The basic idea with community notes is to move away from third-party fact checkers, which are organizations that we pay, and move towards a more moderator-based system where people sign up to add context to posts in order to make sure that people can make educated decisions about what to believe and what not to believe. It's very contentious, I understand that, but broadly speaking, the third-party fact-checking program has been difficult to manage. It's been overly political in nature and what it decides to check and how it checks. We're hoping that community notes, which obviously Twitter pioneered, are going to be a better, more reasonable, more sustainable long-term solution. And so we're working quick to bring it to Instagram and to Facebook and to Threads.
Okay, let's talk about another part of that announcement that Mark Zuckerberg made last week, where he talked about how the platforms would be now more open to political content. This is something that, as a whole, the Meta family of platforms had shied away from over the past few years, but now they were diving back in. Here's the answer to the question, if I do not want political content in my feed, will there be an easy way to hide it? Here's Adam's answer.
So for those of you who don't know, we've historically tried not to recommend political content from accounts you do not follow. If you follow political accounts, that's fine. We don't get in the way of that. But we're going to start recommending political content because, one, we've got a lot of feedback about this, and two, it's hard to identify what is and what is not political content. And so just trying not to has been inconsistent at best. Now, if you want to avoid political recommendations, you don't want to see political content from accounts you haven't decided to follow, you can go and turn that on. And we will do our best to not show you political content from accounts you do not follow. But it's positioned not as none, but as less, because invariably some will slip through. But the intent is, or the way it's built is, anything we think is political content, we will not recommend, which means you will not see it if it's from an account you do not follow. If it's from an account you do follow, then you're definitely going to see it.
It's funny because although he answered the question, he didn't say how to actually do it. So if you go into your Instagram settings and you select settings and activity, then you scroll down to suggested content, there's an option in there for political content. I had mine set automatically to standard, which is you may see some suggested political content, but I changed it to see less. When Instagram recognizes political content, they will not suggest it to me. Of course, if you like political content, you have the option for see more. Political content will be suggested to you like any other content. So those are your options. Definitely make sure that it is set appropriately for how you want to use Instagram. Okay, let's go on to a question that has to do with one of the most confusing things about Instagram. Pop quiz. How long is the maximum amount of time a reel can be? The options are A, 90 seconds, B, 3 minutes, C, 15 minutes. What would you say? A, 90 seconds, B, 3 minutes, C, 15 minutes. What's your guess? Go. All right, the answer is so confusing. It is actually B, but with a caveat of C. Let's get into it. First, if you open up the Instagram app and you go to make a new post and you want to make a new reel, within the Instagram app, you can only make a reel up to 90 seconds. Now, if you want a reel to be longer than 90 seconds, you can just create it in a different app. For instance, you could create it in CapCut or TikTok or whatever other video editing app you use. And then you can open up Instagram, go to the create a new post, select reels, and select the video that you made up to 3 minutes. Now, what if you want to post a video that's longer than 3 minutes? What if you want it to be a 10-minute video or even a 15-minute video, because that is the max? Well, good news, you can actually do that by creating a post, not a reel, but a post. And it will be a video, it will be a reel technically, but it will be much longer. That is just incredibly confusing and very poorly designed. If you think I'm joking, here's the head of Instagram explaining this. The exact question he got, why can't I post 3-minute reels anymore? Now you know the answer. You of course can.
So you can still post videos that are more than 3 minutes long. You just have to go through the post flow instead of the reel flow. That is a little confusing though, I know, but it does still exist. In general, we need to simplify things. Right now, if a video is over 90 seconds, it will not be recommended. It'll still show up in people's feeds of those who follow you, but we will not show it to people who do not follow you. The reel max length and the post max length are also different, so we got to clean that all up. But if you have something that's over 3 minutes long and you want to post it, you can use the post flow.
I sincerely hope that there's a UX person at Instagram working on this problem, maybe even a team of UX people, because this really needs to be addressed. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue with the question and answers. We're going to talk about reach and what to do with Reels templates and broadcast channels and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Continuing with the questions and answers, the next one. Please, can content creators move their posts in different orders on the grid? This is something that is needed. You can pin things, of course, but that's not really the best way because you might want to shuffle those pins around and it's not a great experience.
So right now you can pin up to 3 posts at the top of your grid, but I think it would be awesome if you could just rearrange your grid entirely. The tricky bit is if you do that and then you post something new, what happens? Does everything get pushed or does it show down below the lowest thing you pinned? How can we make that clear? But I'd love to figure out something in that space, so I'll ask the team to explore it.
Next question has to do with the feature on Instagram I like the least. Highlights, are they really going away? Sadly, they are not, but I really, really, really wish they were.
Highlights are not going away. We're exploring moving highlights into the grid and giving highlights its own tab on the profile. But we do need to make sure if we do that, we give creators a way to really shape their profile into something that they love, and highlights is part of how that works. So we're trying to figure out if there's a better, simpler way to allow people to highlight stories and keep them on their profile without creating another idea that pushes your grid down and just makes the profile more complicated. It's something that we're testing. We don't have all the answers yet, but I don't think any of the ideas we're exploring completely remove the idea of highlights.
You know the problem with story highlights? You don't know if anyone is actually watching your story highlights because Instagram doesn't tell you what's happening beyond that 24-hour story window. I guarantee that people are not actually watching your story highlights, even though you think they are, even though you last updated them 2, maybe even 4, maybe even 5 years ago. I promise. Let's go on to the next question. How happy do you feel that photographers are with your platform? I love this question. I feel like there's low-key snark buried in there.
I think photographers are mostly, but not all, frustrated with Instagram. It used to be primarily a place for photos, and it has been more and more becoming a place for video, and that has crowded out a lot of photographers' work. And I get that that's frustrating. In general, though, Instagram is designed to help people discover stuff that they're gonna like. And our best proxy for what people like is what they interact with. And we're seeing that there's just a lot of demand for video. That doesn't mean there aren't photos on Instagram and photos won't continue to be an important part of Instagram. Quite to the contrary. There are a lot of photos and they're always gonna be part of Instagram. And there's gonna be some accounts that do really well just posting photos and carousels. But I know that overall, there's a frustration from the photographer community, which is why actually one of the interesting things that surprised me is how successful Threads has been with photographers specifically, where there's a lot less video to compete with. But I get it. We're just trying to balance all the equities.
Okay, and the last question we're going to talk about today, reach went down over the holidays. Is that typical? I think that's an interesting question. In a lot of respects, people take a break from social media when they're spending time with family. But by the same token, some people are off from work and therefore spend more time on social media. Here's the answer to the question.
It's pretty normal. In general, when there is more content to see, people do consume more, but not proportionally. So if we see content jump by 20%, let's say, over the holidays, I'm making numbers up now, because people are posting more, the amount of content people consume might only go up by 5 or 10%. And so as a result, when there are spikes in how much inventory there is, how much content is shared on Instagram, the average reach will go down. Though in practice, it will go down more for some and up for others.
Okay, that is going to do it for today's episode. As always, thank you for listening. And I promise to keep you updated on the whole TikTok news. Whatever happens, I will be here continuing to report and keep you updated on everything.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency. But I got a lot of spam, just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that, there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.